Welcome to Man in America, a voice of reason in a world gone mad. I'm your host, Seth Holhouse. Thank you so much for being here live tonight. This is Sunday with Seth, where we take a look at some of the big things that happened this past week, but we also look ahead at what are the important stories that are coming. And we've got a great show planned for you tonight. There's some really exciting things happening right now in this country specifically, but there's also some very frightening things happening, and we'll be getting into a lot of these details. Now, before we jump into today's show, talking about Flock and Palantir and China and the surveillance state and the future of America, just a few housekeeping notes. First off, if you are watching on really whatever platform you're watching on, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. It helps a lot with the algorithms to reach more people. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and always leave a comment. I look at most of the comments that you leave. I don't always respond. In fact, I rarely do because I'm just got a lot going on. However, I still do read them. I honestly do, and I love hearing the feedback from you. Honestly, I really love hearing it. Good, bad, and ugly. It doesn't matter if it's hey, Seth, I loved your show, or you're a babbling moron. Those actually make me smile more than the positive comments sometimes. But anyway, I love your comments. And just a reminder that every show that I do is a video if you're watching, but it's also done as a podcast. And so if you want to listen instead of just watch, if you go to your favorite podcast app, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Podbean or Spotify, just search for Man in America and you'll find me on there. And if you're already listening, especially on Apple Podcasts, and you want to really make my day, leave a review on there because Apple prioritizes shows that have a lot of those reviews coming in. And Apple Podcasts somehow doesn't seem to be as censored as a lot of the other places. And so, we're growing our audience on there. And so if you do leave that little review on there, it does help to grow, hopefully even more. Okay, so getting into today's show, Flock. What the flock is happening to this country? Well, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. And so I'm going to be pulling up some articles here. I want to start with this one, though. So this is the Flock CEO has apologized for calling activists terrorists, right? So specifically, I covered this in my last show last Sunday. My live show was really kind of focused on a lot of the same issues. But the CEO of Flock had basically come out and he was referring specifically to this organization, you might call it an organization, kind of citizen-driven, kind of grassroots movement, but called DFlock, which has been tracking the Flock cameras. It's been giving you tools on how to resist these cameras in your local city councils and your local regions. And so in an interview, he had basically called this a terrorist organization, referring to it as kind of comparing it to Antifa, right? So the same organization that was burning building downs and beating up people for carrying American flags and wearing red hats. He's referring to DFlock kind of in the same vein as Antifa. And so there has been massive backlash, though. And so he's actually, as it says here, he's come out and apologized, right? So this is an article. I'm not going to read the whole thing. So as the movement against $8.3 billion Flock Safety's license plate readers gathers momentum, company's CEO Garrett Langley tells Forbes he shouldn't have called nonviolent activists terroristic organizations. Yeah, that's bad PR. Okay, so here he is. This is Mr. Garrett. This is the guy that's now probably worth over $1 billion. I'm not sure what ownership he has of the company, but he's a very wealthy man considering the valuations in 7 billion, 8 billion plus. And so this is him next to his cameras and his drone. So it says here, for the past 2 years, Will Freeman has been advocating against Flock Safety, an $8.3 billion surveillance company that tracks vehicles with a network of over 80,000 cameras. His organization, DFlock, crowdsourced a map that shows where the company's cameras are located and helps local grassroots movements organized against Flock deployments. In an interview with Forbes last year, Flock CEO Garrett Langley described DFlock as a terroristic organization. But now, as Flock faces an increasingly vitriolic public backlash, Langley says he regrets that label. He says, "My comments were a mistake and I apologize. There are groups today that have valid criticisms of the business, and I think what's changed for us is as we've listened to them and heard them out, What we're trying to do is find this balance. We believe in a world where we can have safety and privacy. Now, my kind of guess is why he's going on this apology tour is because there has just been massive backlash. And this is encouraging to me. It really is, because, I mean, I'm not sure how long you've been watching this show, Man in America, but I've been kind of screaming from the rooftops about the threats of digital ID, of this digital control grid, of losing our freedoms here in America to a technocratic system. And I'm sure that you've been probably telling a lot of your friends and family this as well. And up until really, I'd say, kind of 6 months ago or so ago, a lot of people just turned a blind eye. They didn't really want to hear about it. If you're warning them and you're saying, hey, here's why I would never drive a Tesla because the government can turn it off remotely, they look at you kind of side-eyed, right? Or if you're pointing out all the security cameras and you're warning people about them, I think a lot of the general public was not that interested in them. I mean, you look at how many people have put Ring cameras all over their front doors, and now we know that that Ring camera has formed this massive surveillance network that you're paying for. You're paying a subscription to fuel this massive surveillance network. But things are changing. And I think that the first big thing in this shift was the data centers. And so obviously the data centers are still a very hot topic right now, but it was what was happening is that it was the stories of how these data centers were affecting average Americans. And I find that that's one of the things that really tips the scales, right? That's kind of what puts you past that tipping point, because you could be spending a lot of time, as many of you have, and as I've certainly have, you could be putting a lot of energy and effort into trying to warn people about the different agendas to bring about some sort of new world order, some sort of global tyranny. And people just, they'd rather talk about the Super Bowl. However, it's when these agendas start affecting the average American in real ways such as energy costs doubling or tripling in their area, such as water costs going up, or water being polluted, or light pollution or noise pollution from these big data centers, or them seeing this beautiful farmland that they grew up, kind of staring at or driving next to their whole life, has now become this, massive, massive data facility. A lot of everyday Americans are saying, hey, this isn't good. I don't like this. And so that has really started this big movement, I'd say, in America of people kind of starting to wake up to the threat of this digital tyranny. And that's encouraging to me. It's like, okay, it's a first step. Just like the pandemic woke a lot of people up to the evil agendas of the pharmaceutical, medical, industrial complex, of the abilities of a government to lock someone down or do tracking and tracing, or prevent you from seeing your grandmother in a nursing home unless you've got some experimental shot in your arm. And so these things are actually causing I guess you could say a great awakening, which is a good thing. And so we went from data centers, because I've spent a lot of my time tracking, okay, what are the trends? I really try my best to understand, especially for people here in America, right? This is Man in America, and that's where I live. It's where I was born, I'm raised, and I have no intention of leaving this country. And so I spend a lot of my time not just researching important stories or things that are, I think, interesting to share with you, but I also try to understand where the general public is, because it's the general public that will determine the fate of this nation. And if the vast, vast majority of people in this country just couldn't care about the surveillance state, as long as they have their bread and circuses and they have their Netflix and their football games, they'll do whatever it takes. They'll get a shot in their arm. They'll get a digital ID. They'll put a camera on their front door. They'll accept this, surveillance camera being sitting right in their neighborhood. If the majority of Americans were okay with that, to me, that's a great cause for concern. But if a lot of Americans, and we're hitting a majority, hopefully, are becoming more aware of the more nefarious aspects of this technology, that I think can create a much more important movement in rejecting it. And so what I've noticed is that flock cameras have become a mainstream issue. And this is really, really good. Because I'm seeing a lot of news clips just on, as I'm looking through researching, ABC or local news stations, they're talking about these flock cameras, and they're talking about the threat to privacy. They're talking about the Fourth Amendment. They're talking about, hey, is this constitutional? And so this is really, really encouraging. But you also have people that are kind of even going further and really, really digging into this company. So I'm going to play this video for you. It's about 2 minutes, and there is a guy, I apologize, I forget his name, he's a pretty big YouTuber, and this is him. And so he tracked down one of the kind of main flock employees, which he'll explain this, and he starts interviewing him. And so this is the kind of citizen journalism and the kind of citizen action, grassroots action that I hope that we can see more of, right? And this guy he's just expressing his own rights that are granted to us by the Constitution. So I'll play this for you. It is, like I said, about 2 minutes, a little over 2 minutes long. I'll play maybe the first minute 45 or so, and just check this out. I'll go ahead and full screen it for you.
Flock?
What?
Are you with Flock?
No, there's a construction firm I work with, CSD.
This man, James Boyce, is a former British Army veteran and a current Flock supply chain manager. Not only did he lie about working for Flock, which I'm guessing is probably normal at this company, but he also implied to Georgia law enforcement that I could have been armed, and we'll soon see if that puts my life in danger. You guys have done nothing wrong. Actually, we've also done nothing wrong, and yet we're blockaded by a police officer. Are we being detained?
The manager wants to speak.
It's a yes or no question, sir.
You're gonna wait here until the manager talks to you.
You're holding me until that guy talks, but you're not telling me if I'm going to be detained. Yeah, you are. Am I allowed to leave? Can I go in my car and leave? They are with Flock Safety. They just confirmed.
How you doing?
Hey,
I'm good.
What's up, brother?
Hi, how you doing, sir?
Good.
So, tell him what you need to tell him.
So, gentlemen, I just want to be very clear. There's a multi-tenant site here with a lot of people that are just trying to work. I've got yourself and everyone running in the street. I had to put my brakes on just to stop to make sure you're okay.
Are you safe right now, sir?
Well, I don't know that, do I? So I just want to make sure. We've had reports that you've been to basically every flock safety site and facility that you know of. And
correct.
Yeah. So
your surveillance is correct. We're doing our own surveillance.
Okay, so people don't really feel safe right now with people randomly trying to get into our sites and buildings.
Oh, wait. You don't feel safe being surveilled. Is that what you're saying?
Not at all, sir.
Because that's what you guys do to us without our consent.
Okay.
And I think it's interesting when you guys have this happen, you call the police and make us get stopped. But then you do it and it's okay?
I mean, our devices will call the police regard. What we'd like you to do is, basically we're saying that you're trespassing on this site and we'd like you to leave peacefully.
After Flock called the police and had us detained, I immediately filed a public records request for the police reports and body cam footage. In Georgia, by law, a city or police department has 3 days to respond to a FOIA request. I didn't even get an acknowledgement response for 10 days.
And so that's just a good example of this guy was I forget what level he was within. I think he was in distribution, but he was also ex-British Army. I forget exactly what he was, but anyway, you can see though that you're seeing more of these kinds of videos. You're seeing more public scrutiny on these individuals. Now, I'm not going to get into it yet in the show, but I will be what I'll be talking about in a little bit here is how Flock is just the tip of the iceberg. And this is the important point here. And I'm going to be hammering on this point multiple times throughout this show, is that Flock is just one company. So Flock is just this little spoke in this giant wheel of the censorship industrial complex that is slowly strangling the United States of America and basically trampling all over the Fourth Amendment. And so that's part of what I'm trying to do with this show is to say, hey, make sure that you're aware of this thing that's happening, but don't get too focused on this that you miss what's really going on, right? Because we're seeing, and I'll be getting into this, that you're seeing that there's a lot of Flock contracts being canceled, but they're actually being replaced by Flock competitors, and we'll be getting into that in a little bit here. But the, pardon me, I'm going to play another video for you because this is actually one of the big things. So Flock has continually said that this data that they're accessing it's private, it's really secure, it's not going anywhere else. Yep, this right here is a video I will play. This is from a Cleveland councilman talking about what's referred to as a side door in Flock's software. So I'll play this for you. It's about a minute long, but this is a really important part of this overall discussion.
So here I am having conversations, and I believe that only Cleveland has access, and now we hear that there's a, as we're calling it now, a side door access to information, right? This is why nobody trusts Flock, right? Is because you have to find the answers on your own, right? I think everybody in the administration understands council's position on this, but yet every time we take 2 steps forward, we're taking 1 back because the side door opens. And that's the frustrating part of this piece of legislation, is that when I'm told only Cleveland's going to have access to it, and then we learned that the Fusion Center will now have access or has access to Cleveland's information through Flock, that level of trust just falls again.
So basically, what he's referring to is that a lot of these city councils are being told, hey, we're going to put these Flock cameras in your area, and just your local police departments or your local area is going to have access to information. But what he's discussing here at this side door is that data is being sent to what he refers to as these fusion centers. And so these fusion centers are what then build this national database, right? And so in some of these searches, they discovered that, say, a small town's Flock cameras were being accessed by police departments all across the nation. Okay, and so this is really the crux of the matter, right? Because if you have, say, a red light camera that is capturing, if you're blowing through a red light and it captures your license plate for going through a red light and you get a ticket in the mail, that information, I don't know the specifics of who runs these red light cameras, but I'd imagine that kind of information is staying within a local region, right? There's no reason for the police chief in Houston to check on whether you're running a red light in some rural town in Indiana. And so the problem, though, is that people are discovering that all the data that Flock is gathering is going into this larger database that then is being accessed by police departments across the nation, in addition to all kinds of other agencies, federal agencies, et cetera, that are then kind of peering into this data. And this is what one of the aggravating things with this is that I don't have the specific costs. I'm sure that kind of varies per region, but from my own research, a local police department is paying roughly $3,000 per year per camera, right? So this is your taxpayer money that is being used to fund your local police department. And so they're paying roughly $3,000 per camera per year to access that data to keep us safe, right? Now, look, and I've got a lot of problem with taxes in general, but however, right, I'm not a defund the police kind of guy. Like, I believe if there is a constitutional sheriff and if the police in my region are following and enforcing the Constitution, I believe that they should have the funds to properly do that, right? This is, it's like if someone shows up in my front yard with a shotgun and is threatening to me and I call 911, like, I want the local police officers to show up and take care of that threat. And I think that that's a service that they offer. But if my tax dollars are then actually being paid to Flock, right? And then Flock is selling my data to the local police department, that's where I have an issue. And that's actually the thing that really, really bothers me with this, because when you use Google, right? Or say you have a Gmail and you use single sign-on, when you create your account, you're saying, yes, I agree to this. And the part of the reason why Google is free is because it's collecting data on you. Part of the reason why Gmail is free is because it's collecting data on you. It then uses that data, it sells that data to advertisers, but you're entering into that relationship contractually. But what's happening, though, is that you have a third-party private company that is collecting a massive amount of data on me, on you, on every person in America that is within the vicinity of these cameras. It's collecting that data on me and selling it to these police departments and other agencies that are being funded by our taxpayer dollars, okay? And then Flock is now it's now an $8.5 billion company. So they've got roughly 100,000 of these cameras across the nation. And so just think about if one camera is, they're making $3,000 a year per camera, then if my math serves me correctly, I think it's somewhere like $300 million. It's kind of quick math. I didn't do it. So yeah, it's roughly 3,000 times 100,000. That's that many zeros, and it's a lot of money. Okay, I went to art school, so don't quiz me on my instant math, especially with lots of zeros. So anyway, that's one of the issues that I have. But it's not just that; it's people are then realizing their privacy is being invaded. It's going to these data centers. It's having access like that. There's all that kind of nefarious stuff happening. But we're also seeing like case on case on case of people that have access within police forces, people that have access to these cameras that are misusing them. And so it's like almost every day I'm seeing a new headline about, hey, these 3 police officers were arrested here. These were fired over here because they were using this Flock camera data to illegally track and surveil people. So I've got a video here I'm going to show you. This is down, I think, down in Georgia, if I remember correctly, right? It says multiple police officers are being removed from their positions across the country after they were caught using Flock cameras to stalk and track their own family members. So I'll play this for you right here. I think this is Atlanta, if I remember correctly. So this is a little under 2 minutes. I'm going to play this clip for you, though, because this is really, it highlights what's happening with the police, but it's also highlighting the movement of rejecting this technology.
Yes, I did. People that I spoke to in the Fayetteville area call this very alarming, that police officers are using those Flock cameras for their own purposes. They say that this raises new questions about privacy, accountability, and how the technology is monitored. For many, Flock cameras are supposed to make communities safer. But after 3 officers allegedly abused the system for personal reasons, some residents are questioning whether the technology has enough safeguards.
I don't think they should be misused for personal use or any other use unless it's for a legal reason.
According to the Fayetteville Police Department, the officers improperly used the license plate reader technology to look for relatives and acquaintances, actions the department says fell outside of the scope of their duties. Now, some residents are calling for stronger oversight.
They should be for that specific purpose. If they're able to use it for all these other reasons like tracking people, either they need a new company that has protections on the gear to where you can't do all that stuff, or there needs to be some checks and balances on it.
Atlanta News First reached out to Flock Safety. The company's CEO says while the allegations are disappointing, it also demonstrates that agencies can detect misuse.
It's a disappointing story when I see it, but I also go, look, this is working. This is showing that if you use a tool like Flock or other tools, you should be held accountable, regardless of whether you have a badge or you don't.
This all comes as Flock cameras continue to face scrutiny across metro Atlanta. In some communities, opponents have even vandalized or removed the cameras. Fayetteville resident Willie Wells says the latest incident only reinforces his concerns.
They're unconstitutional and they have to pay us for our data. Okay, we're becoming a police state. We got to stop it. We got to stop it.
I mean, kudos to that guy. He says we're becoming a police state and we've got to stop it. And so you are seeing this resistance happening. Now, this is a post from about 6 months ago or so. This is from Jason Bassler over on X. He's saying these are the cities that have said no to surveillance contracts. So there are a lot of cities that are rejecting these surveillance contracts. And you're also seeing there's a lot of departments that are canceling their contracts. So LAPD, they're not renewing their contracts. I believe that they're not going to be using it anymore. The cameras are still going to be in place. But similar to the data centers, you're seeing that the mass resistance to this is taking an effect. And that's really, really important. However, I want to highlight, though, that as I mentioned before, Flock is just one layer, right? Flock is just one spoke on the wheel of this technocratic surveillance state. And so I'm going to pull something up now. It's a great little post here. This is from this guy, William Murphy, over on Twitter. He says, Flock is just one layer. The surveillance economy combines ALPR, which is the license plate reading technology, facial recognition, AI analytics, data brokers, and police cloud systems. The issue isn't one camera. It's building a permanent behavioral database where movement, identity, and associations become searchable. Now, and I will be getting into Axon more in a little bit here, and I'm also going to be talking about cell phones, because I know that a lot of people in last week's live show were asking, are these cameras tracking your cell phone location? So I have some stuff to show you about that. Okay, but I want to continue here. So, okay, he's kind of describing the different layers of this system. So you have Flock Safety. He says that Flock builds automated license plate reader networks. So that's ALPR. So it's automated license plate reader networks that allow law enforcement agencies to track vehicles across jurisdictions. The concern is turning everyday movement into a searchable historical record. Then you have Axon Enterprise. It says Axon moved beyond tasers and body cameras into a broader police technology ecosystem. Digital evidence, real-time operations, drones, and AI-assisted tools. The future of policing is increasingly data-driven. 3, Palantir Technologies. Palantir specializes in integrating massive data sets for intelligence analysis. Its platforms are used by governments, militaries, law enforcement, and immigration agencies. The power is not collecting one piece of data, it's connecting them all. And that's what Palantir does. Palantir, in a lot of ways, acts as this central brain that all this information feeds into. Okay, then you have Clearview AI. So Clearview AI built facial recognition systems using billions of collected images. Biometric surveillance raises a fundamental question. What happens when your identity becomes a permanent searchable record? Okay, then he talks about Verkada. Verkada provides cloud-connected security cameras used by businesses, schools, and institutions. Centralized surveillance creates centralized risk, data breaches, unauthorized access, and abuse. Motorola Solutions. So Motorola also is doing a lot of these cameras, but they're says they've expanded from radios into command centers, police communications, video security, public safety analytics. Then you have Amazon, right? So Amazon's Ring ecosystem has now connected millions of these doorbell cameras. Then you have Hikvision or Hikvision. I like Hikvision. And Dahua Technology, which are companies of major global surveillance camera manufacturers. Then he kind of highlights, okay, this is the important point. He says, the real danger is not of one company or one camera. It's the convergence of cameras, license plate tracking, biometrics, location data, AI analytics, and data brokers. He says a society can drift into total surveillance, one security improvement at a time. And here he goes. The central political question is who owns the data generated by society? If corporations and states control the infrastructure of observation, ordinary people become the objects being monitored rather than the subjects that are shaping society. And so now he mentioned a few things, a few different companies here, which I'm going to highlight. So first one is Axon. And so Axon originally they really focused, they did tasers, right, which are used by police forces. And look, I'm a fan of tasers. Like if you can neutralize a threat with a taser, say a guy's got a knife and he's kind of acting crazy, and if you can just tase him and then arrest him, hey, good. Tasers are very effective, non-lethal, means of force. They also do the police body cams, right? So a lot of times if you see the police footage released, you might see the Axon logo on there. They're a major manufacturer of police body cams. However, Axon also has this vehicle intelligence part. So right here, Axon also makes basically the same thing that Flock does. So they have their ALPR live video cameras here, right? So similar to a Flock camera, you'll see an Axon. And so this is something to just to kind of bring to your attention is that a lot of places are canceling Flock contracts, but they're just replacing them with Axon contracts. So they're completely just pulling a stunt and saying, oh, okay, so we're not going to put, we're not going to point a gun at you, or we're not going to point a rifle at you. It's like, oh, thank you, stop. Okay, it's great. We're going to point a pistol at you instead. It's like, well, hold on. Both have the same thing. Like they're both going to potentially shoot me. And that's exactly what's happening. And so this is something just to be aware of is that, and this is why I said, it's important to focus on Flock, but don't get stuck in the weeds with Flock. Don't think that if you can stop Flock from coming into your own city council and selling them on it and getting cameras all over your area, don't think it's this huge win if you just get rid of Flock. Because if the Flock disappears, we're seeing a lot of areas are just replacing them with Axon. Now, the good thing with these, similar to Flock, is that you can spot them, right? You can see them. You can find them on the D-Flock map, but also if you're driving, you know what this looks like. You'll see this big black pole. You'll see a little solar panel on top of it, and you have a camera mounted on there. It's like, okay, hey, that's a security camera. That's a Flock, or it's an Axon. But here's where it gets scary, is that Axon also has this other thing, okay? Let's see, let me scroll down, called Axon Light Post. So the Axon Light Post, I'm sure if you can see it there. So what this is this is a little camera. Let's see if I can zoom in for you. Yep, there you go. So Axon Light Post is basically just retrofitting one of their exact cameras. So the same Flock camera you would see, the same technology, everything. Instead of putting it on a pole where you can spot it, these are built to just attach to light posts. And so you might be driving around somewhere and you might see no Flock cameras, but these things are sitting up on the light posts. And this is a concern because that's a lot easier to hide. Okay. And so now so he says, Axon's new Works with Axon program means that these cameras can, work with multiple agencies and multiple, kind of third-party cameras can plug in. And then they have their platform that brings it all. So they have Axon Fusus, which connects every stream into one operational view so that agencies can search, respond, and build cases faster from a single platform. Okay, so now Axon, this company here, again, keep an eye out for Axon. And there's a lot of people that, I'm not sure, I'm not going to bring us into politics. I think that politics, by this point in my life, I think that politics is a complete scam. However, there's a lot of people that think, well, Trump is going to save us from this. Trump is, the white hats are, they're protecting us and everything. I can show you this. So Trump's account, right? They bought up to $5 million in Axon 2 weeks before ICE sought a $220 million government contract. So not only is that insider trading, but Trump's own account is investing in Axon, okay? Which again, I wouldn't be surprised. You might see this happen. Oftentimes, it's like within a war, they will send out an enemy first that's going to draw fire, that's going to, kind of deplete the resources of whoever they're fighting against. They might know that thing is going to die first, only to be replaced by the other thing quietly. And so just be aware of this, is that we might see, look, maybe there's so much backlash against Flock that maybe the company goes under in a year or two, right? And it's like this huge thing. Okay, hey, we kind of, David took down Goliath. However, you might see companies like Axon that are just quietly replacing and quietly putting the exact technology in, but maybe this time they got smart and they're saying, hey, it's actually too obvious if you have these poles everywhere, so we're going to attach these to lights, okay? And so just be aware that Trump is invested in this company, and I'm not sure, they bought, let's see if the article shows, okay? So it says that a federal ethics filing shows an account in Trump's name bought between $1 and $5 million of Axon shares, Axon stock. And 14 days later, the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, posted a notice seeking a 5-year, $220 million contract for stun guns. Okay, so let's see. Does it say how much they made? No, it doesn't kind of give you an indication. I'm guessing, though, that stock completely surged after that. So now, look, maybe it was just a little bit of insider trading. Hey, let's make some money, whatever. But he's investing in this infrastructure. Okay, so think of it what you might. Now, again, if we're looking at the investment and the money behind these things, you've also got Palantir. As I mentioned, Palantir is sitting in the middle of all of this, right? And again, I got to say, Palantir under Trump has become insanely linked with our government, right? When Elon Musk was coming in and Doge, it was like, hey, it was really exciting. We're exposing all this, corruption and waste. But what's also happening is that you're seeing all of these big tech companies getting really cozy with the federal government, with Palantir being one of the central ones. And say, okay, well, what's Palantir have to do with Flock? Well, Flock, right here, back in 2025, so a little over a year ago, they secured almost $250 million in funding. So right here, accelerating innovation, Flock secures $275 million to advance crime-solving technology. Oh yeah, great. And this is the other thing too, is that what do you mean crime-solving, technology? I think it was Lennon. I think it was Lennon who said something to the effect of basically, give me the man and I'll find his crimes. Okay, like they can find crimes if they want to. And so crime-solving technology, now we know what Flock is really about. However, if you look at who's financing this, okay, so we have Andreessen Horowitz. So Mark Andreessen is the guy who runs Substack. So just be aware of that. But right here, you've also got the Founders Fund, right? So Founders Fund is basically Peter Thiel, some other wealthy people as well. But so Peter Thiel is an investor in Flock. And this is what you see, is that as you move up and you start to see this kind of industrial complex of surveillance and data gathering and AI and everything, it's a very small club. And there's a very small amount of people, kind of all things considered, that are funding and owning a significant amount of this technology. It's very centralized. And so if you look at Palantir, it's really important that when you're looking at companies like Palantir or Peter Thiel, that you understand that the relationship, okay, even looking at Flock. So what's happened is that the government is bound by the Constitution. So the government itself can't come in and put these Flock cameras everywhere. It has to be done by a private company. And same thing with Palantir, right? So the government can't have this database and all this stuff for analyzing all this data to be, kind of used against people, to be monitoring its citizens, because it's violating the Fourth Amendment. However, these private companies can. And this is I'm not going to get too heavy into this theme, but it's something that's very, very important to understand, is that from my own understanding and my own research, a lot of Silicon Valley is just a front for the military industrial complex. It's like Facebook. It's like, oh, Facebook, yeah, this genius Mark Zuckerberg in his garage built this company. No, Facebook was basically DARPA's LifeLog rebranded. Okay, so a lot of the big companies that we see, especially getting into social media, which can be a really good tool for social engineering, a lot of the data, stuff we're seeing with Palantir, Oracle, et cetera, these companies have their origin in the United States government. Even SpaceX, a lot of what's backed Elon has been big DoD contracts. And so if you're looking at Palantir specifically, I'll give you an example and just apply this to a lot of these other companies. So look here, I'm going to play a short video here. I'll play about maybe a minute or two of it. This is Whitney Webb, who I've been trying to interview for a long time. So if you know Whitney, then please say, hey, you should go on Seth's show, because I really want to interview Whitney Webb. But listen to her giving a little bit of the history of Palantir. Like I said, I'll play about a minute or two of this because she's brilliant and she can talk about a lot of stuff. But anyway, let's just take a look at, this is the formula for how the government can violate the Constitution, is because the government just creates these companies, it turns them into private companies that have these massive government contracts, and basically the government is then bypassing the Constitution through private companies. It's really kind of the same thing of how the government can go assassinate world leaders and everything, because they're not doing it. They're paying some private black ops company, some private contractor to go do it for them. So I'll play this for you. This is Whitney Webb.
Peter Thiel, as an example, Palantir has been in the news, right? He's a co-founder of that. So how was Palantir created? Well, there was this company that was being run, or not company, sorry. It was a government program after 9/11 called Total Information Awareness. It was housed within the Pentagon's DARPA office. And the man they chose to put in charge of that was John Poindexter, who was the highest ranking member of the Reagan administration to be indicted for his role in Iran-Contra, which, again, the continuity of government stuff is relevant here. So eventually, it launches and whatever, but people are outraged by it because, as they rightly pointed out, it would eliminate constitutional protections of Americans' rights, specifically the right to privacy, among other things. It was a huge surveillance dragnet, and its goal wasn't just to, surveil everything. It was to predict crime before it happens, predict terror attacks before it happens. I mean, it's like Minority Report was basically the end goal of it. And so after all the pushback, they changed the name to Terrorist Information Awareness and try and rebrand. Oh, it's not total. We are still going to surveil innocent Americans, but we're focusing on the terrorists. They did all this stuff to try and rebrand it. But Congress defunded it. But hidden in that bill, Congress allowed aspects of it to continue. And essentially, I argue in my work on Palantir that an effort was made to privatize large aspects of TIA as Palantir. Because when Alex Karp and Peter Thiel were setting it up, they went to John Poindexter through this guy named Richard Pearl, who is a long-standing neocon actor with very extensive ties also to the state of Israel. He was caught in the 70s giving classified information to Israel's embassy and should have gone to jail and somehow did not. And had a lot of ties also to Netanyahu's first government. And Richard Pearl is the guy that connected Thiel Karp to Poindexter, and they basically wanted to talk to Poindexter because they wanted to recreate total information awareness and saw him as the godfather of modern mass surveillance.
So there you go, right? And that is the story that we see over and over and over again with these big tech companies. Now, I want to actually highlight a comment that I saw in the chat. Let's see. Okay. Let me see. Let me make it a little bigger for you. Okay. So Tomahawk, right? Thanks for being here, Tomahawk, and thanks for encouraging those likes. Yeah, remember to hit that like button. Thank you. Thank you, Tomahawk. He says, the revolution won't be against the government. It will be against the tech bros. And I would say they're one and the same, right? So, and that's the thing. This is what we have to realize, right? Is that in many ways, they are one of the same. Is that the government is the tech bros, right? Look at Oracle. Look at all these massive companies. So many of them started based upon massive government contracts, started within In-Q-Tel or different arms of the government being able to invest in companies, started within DARPA or ALPR, right? And so this is how they've done it, though, is that they have hidden these nefarious activities within these private companies. And this is the big issue here, is what does this lead to? Right? Because our founders, they warned against this exact thing. They warned against a federal government gaining too much control over its people. And I'll be getting into China and I'll be getting into where this could potentially lead in a little bit here. But this is the big issue, is that what happens when the government gains this much control over its people, especially when the government is hiding this through private companies, through university grants and research, etc. That's not a good thing. Now, I want to continue because people were asking about the cell phones. Okay, so I'm going to pull this up from, this is from Polly, amazing Polly, who's wonderful. I wish she was producing videos like she used to be. She used to be very active, but she's still a very, very good person to follow. And one thing that she's been highlighting a lot is that cell phones, right? So as much as we're trying to resist flock cameras and the surveillance state, the sad reality of this is that as long as you're carrying your smartphone, that smartphone is the most potent tool in the surveillance state. So here's a post that she says, she's sharing a chat she had with the AI, and she had asked, what has more potential to invade privacy and create a police state, a nationwide network of traffic cameras, or hundreds of millions of people in that same area carrying smartphones with them? And the response was, hundreds of millions of people carrying smartphones poses a significantly greater threat to privacy and the creation of a police state than a nationwide network of traffic cameras. Smartphones act as voluntary, all-encompassing surveillance devices that collect intimate 24/7 data, making them vastly more dangerous to civil liberties than stationary traffic or license plate readers. And this is the tricky part, is And I struggle with this because I do a lot of my work from my phone. I have a smartphone, and I have been on the fence for quite some time now, and my wife as well, and thinking, should we just go back to a dumb phone? And I think that I probably will, right? It's the same reason why probably sometime in late summer or fall, I'm going to, sell one. We have a couple, we have 2 vehicles, and they're both newer vehicles that I think we're going to sell one of them, and I'm going to get like an old 80s Bronco. That's probably what I'm going to be leaning towards. But I don't want a smart car. I want a car that is a dumb car. I want to be able to turn my air conditioning on with a knob and a little manual dial instead of some fancy touchscreen. There's a lot of reasons for that too. However, it's the same thing with cell phones, right? It's like, as much as we are resistant to the surveillance state, do we resist it enough that we can get rid of the convenience of this smartphone? And that's tough, right? It really is difficult. But I'm aware, though, the fact that, these smartphones, these are the center of this. Now, someone had asked on last week's show about whether the flock cameras are tracking phones. And so this is a video I'm going to play for you. And this is a guy literally showing that as he approaches this flock camera, that the flock camera is pinging a Bluetooth back and forth to his phone. And this is what's really, really important, is that, Flock has said, oh no, look, we're just reading license plate information. We're just doing this very simple task of analyzing the cars and everything. Yet, if that's the case, why is this flock camera pinging these Bluetooth signals back and forth from this phone? And this is where it gets even more dystopian. So I'll play this video. I won't play the whole thing, maybe a minute or so, but you can see exactly what's happening here. He does a good job narrating it.
So we are getting this flock camera. It's emitting this Connect 36295 Bluetooth signal. It will randomly emit that. You can see it right there. We observed it 32 seconds ago. I can start this back up and you'll see we'll observe it consistently. This specific unit is obviously set off by human motion. Whether that's taking a picture of me is questionable, but the IR element definitely is set off from human motion. As you can see, no cars are coming. There's that Connect signal. It's a Bluetooth signal. You can see at the top there, it's coming from the back of this battery pack. I believe it's coming from that white battery module emitting a Bluetooth signal. This looks to be a standard Falcon ALPR unit, so it's not going to be the AI video powered condo unit. The easiest way to tell is the camera. The IR unit is more towards the top of the camera as opposed to the Condor where they're on the middle. You'll be able to see this triggered by the cars. It's taking 6 to 8 images of each vehicle as it goes by, make, model, color, decals, damage, and then it's uploading that basically via LTE to Flock OS where it becomes searchable, indexable, and they can refer to it later. So very extensive system. Again, we're picking up that Connect 36295 signal coming from the what I believe is the BLE battery pack, or the battery pack on the back of here giving off a BLE.
And so you can see right there that flock camera, for whatever reason, is pinging his phone. And I'm assuming it's collecting location data on that. Now, this is where it gets even more frightening. Okay, so there's a technology called signal trace. Now, I was not able to confirm whether Flock is using signal trace technology. Actually, I don't have the window open, but I'm going to pull up. Let me see. Let me find it real quick. Signal trace. Let me see here. Okay. This company called Leonardo, they have this technology called signal trace. Now, what signal trace does, it says, okay, here's this little video. It says, okay, think about, okay, I'll turn the music off. I'll narrate this for you because people that are listening on the podcast, they can follow along because this little video they have, it's a little bit over a minute long. There's no words, so it just has some cheesy music. But it says, think of all the electronic devices that people travel with. Smartphones, watches, earphones, fitness trackers, infotainment systems in your car. Okay, it says, what if law enforcement could identify suspects by the electronic devices they use? They can. Okay, so signal trace captures the unique signals emitted from each device and creates a digital fingerprint for devices that routinely travel together. So when used along with Leonardo's license plate readers, signal trace correlates each digital fingerprint with a plate. So, okay, basically what this is saying, let's just say, so this signal trace technology, as you can see in the picture here, it shows it, right? It's just this couple of these white boxes that can be mounted on a pole. Now, no one's talking about this yet. Everyone's focused on flock. But to me, this is almost worse than flock, because what it does is that when you, let's just say you have some AirPods, you have a phone, you have a Bluetooth system in your car, and you're wearing some sort of Apple Watch or Fitbit. All of those devices are emitting wireless signals. Okay. And so what signal trace does, as it say, it captures the unique signals emitted from each device and creates a digital fingerprint for devices that routinely travel together. And so let's just say that you've got those devices. Those devices, each with their own individual identifying, IMEs or whatever the specific numbers are identified by, those create a digital fingerprint. And so let's just say that what it kind of highlights here too, say you're then riding with a friend of yours in their car, that signal trace would potentially know that you're riding in the car, even in someone else's car, because it would have your digital fingerprint of, oh, that's Bill Johnson wearing this particular Apple Watch. He has this pair of Apple headphones and he has this phone with him. And so it creates a fingerprint of that. And so this is where it gets, in my opinion, even scarier. And so there's actually the NRA recently published an article, this is back on July 13th, warning about this. It says the NRA is warning about signal trace. It says gun owners may be joining the anti-flock movement. Okay, so here it does a good job of describing it. It says you drive past a pole-mounted camera on your way to the range. Your plate gets logged. Old news. But your phone, your smartwatch, the RFID tags still tucked inside that new holster box, those might get logged too. Leonardo's ELSAG signal trace represents a significant expansion in law enforcement surveillance, and the NRA is flagging it as a direct threat to firearm owner privacy. Okay, so it says when flock cameras read your plate, signal trace, or so it's where flock cameras read your plate in your car, to create the fingerprint of your car, your vehicle, signal trace maps what's riding inside. Leonardo markets the system as a signal intelligence layer for existing ALPR infrastructure. It collects electronic communication patterns from consumer devices and builds what the company calls an electronic fingerprint, a profile of devices that routinely travel together according to Leonardo's own product description. So that the confirmed capabilities break it down like this: phones, smartwatches, fitness trackers, RFID tags, even tire pressure sensors are among the signals that the system can detect. Signal trace links device clusters to vehicle movement records, creating layered identity profiles. Data may be archived for future queries, unlike some flock systems that claim to delete the records after a set window. And so it says critics argue that this could map recurring trips to gun stores, ranges, or FFL dealers, though Leonardo does not explicitly advertise this use case. They say that the data retention detail matters. It's one thing to photograph a plate, it's another to build a persistent digital shadow of everyone riding inside the car. So this is, again, what we're looking at here is the entire ecosystem. Is yes, you have the flock cameras, you have the different license plate reading cameras, you have the Axon, the light mounted ones. You now have signal trace, which may or may not be attached to a flock camera. That their technology can be kind of joined together with these license plate reading cameras, or it could just be sitting on a light pole somewhere. But this is all collecting information on you. Okay, now I want to play a video here. This is an interview with Tucker Carlson. I think he was on somebody else's show. It's a minute and a half long, because this is important, right? This is right here. It says, this is from Wide Awake Media. Great. Oh, sorry. Realized I didn't have that up for you. Okay. It's from Wide Awake Media over on Twitter. It says, it's to surveil and control you and then to replace you. It says, Tucker Carlson warns that an AI-powered surveillance state is being constructed in America under the guise of competing with China. So I'll play this really quickly for you. It's a minute and a half long, because this, I think actually this is the bigger conversation that we all need to be having and thinking about.
Tucker Carlson warns that an AI-powered surveillance state is being constructed in America under the guise of competing with China. He maintains that AI's true purpose is mass surveillance and control, not improving lives.
We're just told, to expect this level of censorship only from foreign governments like China. But when it comes to our foreign wars, our government and our media class, it just seems like they're engaging in the exact same propaganda and censorship, if not even more. I'm wondering if you've noticed that.
Well, I've noticed it at every level with many countries over many years. Of course, you see it in the justification for AI. Why would you give up your water resources and your electricity to build a data center that you're paying for? Because all these data centers are publicly subsidized. Why would you do that? Why would you pay for your own enslavement? What's the point of AI? To make your life better? No, of course not. It's to surveil and control you, obviously, and then to replace you. To replace the knowledge worker class with machines. So like, how is that in your interest? Well, of course it's not. They're not even trying to tell you that it is. Instead, they say, well, we have to do it before China does. Because China is like dystopian and bad, and I'm sure not here to defend China, but merely to make the obvious point, to expose the obvious, almost hilarious irony that because we need to, quote, beat China, we're creating a Chinese-style surveillance state in our own country, the land of my ancestors. And it's like, you should be in prison. Honestly, you should be in prison, even saying something like, what?
And so this is the concern. And this is the sober reality of where we're at as a nation, is that our government, through the guise of private corporations, universities, public, utilities, public services, they're building a massive surveillance state in America. It's just the reality of where we are. And it is headed full steam. There is an insane amount of money behind this. They are building a digital prison, a potential digital prison here in America. Now, let's just say that you trust the government, which I'm not sure what planet you're from, but maybe you do. Maybe you actually trust the government. And you're thinking that, hey, you know what? It's worth it because we're going to cut down on crime and life's going to be a lot better, which, again, I haven't seen any reduction in crime with all this new technology. I mean, maybe I'm looking in the wrong places, but America doesn't feel that much safer now than it did 10, 20 years ago. Actually, I feel like it's kind of the opposite. But the sober reality is that this system is being built. And so even if you trust the current administration, you trust the current government, what happens when the next guy gets in? And this is the real issue here, is what happens when the next administration takes over and they say, you know what? Our country needs to be even more safe. What happens if there's another terrorist attack like 9/11, which you could argue the government was heavily involved in that. That's not really an argument anymore. It's almost obvious if you look into it, just spend a little time researching it, you can see, right? These false flag events create the atmosphere of fear. It creates the atmosphere of the average American saying, please protect me. I'm willing to give up a little bit of my privacy, a little bit of my freedom, as long as you'll keep me safe. What we're seeing is that we are on the doorstep of a tyrannical, technocratic rulership, right? It's so close to coming here to America. I mean, it's already here. And so, look, we saw under Joe Biden, we saw that people were being considered terrorists for just being pro-America, right? For being patriotic, for questioning, whether the election was rigged or not. And so this system they're building, it could so easily be turned against the average American. And unfortunately, the people that this kind of system would be turning against are the people that want their freedoms, right? The system's not going to be worried about the people that are already on welfare, that are already lining up for their next booster shot, that are just in complete compliance with the government. Those are the ones that aren't really worried about. The ones that are worried about are the people like you and me, the people that have, Second Amendment, kind of taken care of, the ones that are questioning the government, the ones that are trying to get more outside the system, the ones that see the writing on the wall. These are the people that a government like this would go after. Because if you look at history, if you look at the examples of when a free society has been turned into a tyrannical society, one of the earlier stages of that is eliminating the dissenters, right? So in China, there was a campaign under Mao. It's called the 100 Flowers Blossoming campaign, where they invited all the intellectuals, all the people that had a better idea of how to run a government. And this is actually when they're under communism, and there's a lot of better ways to run the government than communism. They invited all these people to come out and to voice their opinions and to say, hey, how can we do better as a government? And so towards the end of that campaign, all the people that came forward that were obviously people that were thinking and analyzing and thinking to themselves, hey, this communism is not working. This is bad. Most of those people were either killed, put into labor camps, disappeared. And so that's what happens. And so the people that are freedom-minded, the people that are concerned about tyranny rising and taking over the nation, those are the first people that a tyrannical government will silence and eliminate. And we've seen it over and over and over again, even going back to 2020. Anybody who questioned COVID, anybody who questioned the election, these people were deplatformed. Places like the UK, the same people are being arrested, right, for inciting racism or hatred, for questioning whether the mass immigration was leading to mass rape, which we now know has been proven. And this is the concern, because if you look at what life is like in communist China, the technology that is being built in this country has the potential to turn life in America into life in communist China. And you can't get around that point. And actually, I'll play now. I have a little video here. It's maybe 2 minutes long of this is what it looks like in China. So I'll pull this up for you. Okay. This is life in China. So imagine this could be America, right? The infrastructure for this is being built. That's the reality of this. The infrastructure for what we're seeing in China is being built here in America. So we're going to make this full screen for you. I think that works, right? Sorry for the kind of odd crop on this, but I'll play this for you, okay?
Today in China, there are some 600 million surveillance cameras, one for every 2 citizens, able to track people's movements down to the minute.
Every street corner, there's facial recognition, there's digital recognition, there's the social credit system. The social credit system is the sort of highest aspiration of the Chinese Communist Party, to have everything every human being does go into a computer system. And with AI and all sorts of other sophisticated programming, you can know exactly where a person is because he'll have bought something with a credit card or a digital payment system. His car will have gone down a highway. Every kilometer, there's a camera taking pictures of your license plate. They will know everything about everybody real time. This creates a kind of a techno-autocratic system that's unprecedented and with which we've had no experience.
So that right there, and that's just a small little snippet of it, but that's what life in China is like. There's a lot of zones where you can't enter into a certain zone of Beijing, for instance, unless you scan your face first. And when they scan you, they're running you through this national database where they're tracking your social credit score. They're monitoring everything that you're doing. And so if you're a political dissident in China, if you're the, say, Man in America version in China where you're questioning the government, oh, good luck. They're going to come after you. And we've seen it over and over again. So they're using this technology to arrest house Christians, right? So people that if you don't practice the official Chinese Communist Party version of Christianity with their version of the Bible, they will arrest you and put you into a black prison, which means that you're either doing forced labor or maybe they're even harvesting your organs. Very, very common. Look at what they did to the Falun Gong over there, right? It's this big, meditation group. There's close to 100 million people doing this in the late 90s. In 99, Jiang Zemin came in and he was like, hey, this is bad. There's all these people that believe in principles higher than communism. And it's this huge movement of people over there. Like literally, the government estimates between 70 and 100 million people. And they said, we're going to get rid of it. And so they had a huge crackdown where and it still continues to this day. But what's happening now is that they're using this same system. They're using this AI technology, this surveillance grid to track these political dissidents. So whether it's underground Christians or Falun Gong or Uyghur Muslims, they're arresting them, they're harvesting their organs, they're doing all kinds of terrible things. And it's so many people, we have this cognitive dissonance, this normalcy bias that we say, oh, that will never happen in America. It's happening in America. Yeah, maybe they're not arresting the dissidents and harvesting their organs, but they're certainly building the digital infrastructure to create an absolute tyranny in this nation. And so this is what we have to just be aware of. And so, I don't have all the solutions to this, right? And I always like to have some solutions. I mean, obviously it's just, get off grid, get rid of your smartphone, become more self-reliant. There's a lot of things like that, which we can talk about. But the biggest solution that I have is that we have to have more Americans wake up to this reality. And that's a lot of the reason why I do this show and why I hope that you can share this show. And it's also why I've really kind of stopped getting into left-right politics, is because what it does is that, well, for a lot, I think it's just a complete scam, but it also then divides us, because you might have some people that, I don't want to watch that Men in America guy. He's a Trump supporter, right? It's like, no, they're all corrupt, right? It's like, no, yes, I'm on your side, right? Like, I oppose tyranny. Like, that's my stance. I am pro-freedom, I am pro-God, and I am anti-tyranny, I'm anti-communism, I'm anti-socialism, I'm anti-technocracy. And so that's the key here. And so that's one of the biggest things we can do, is just try to help more Americans see this for what it is, because there's a cage being built around us. And if too many of us are still sleeping while that cage is being constructed, by the time you wake up, you're stuck in it, right? But right now the cage isn't complete yet. And what we're seeing, if you look at the resistance that we're seeing with the data centers, the resistance to flock cameras, you can see there's a lot of Americans that are starting to get really pissed off about this. And I think similar to the Epstein stuff and the child trafficking crisis, this is one of those issues that can unite us as Americans. This is one of the issues that, you can find your neighbor and you can say, hey, look, we may not agree politically, but we can both agree that we don't want this surveillance state being built around us. So I'll take a look at the comments. I've just kind of been going on a little bit of a kind of tirade there, I guess you could say. But let's just check in with the comments and see what's going on here. I love seeing all this activity. Yeah, the Almighty, Seth, it is. You are correct. It's happening in Canada. Yeah, Amazing Faces. Yep, the MAID program, medically assisted in death. Kind of medically assisted suicide. Tomahawk, do your push-ups. Yes, do your push-ups. And also, Tomahawk wants to marry Lily Creek. So Lily Creek, I'm not sure if you saw that there. Tomahawk wants to marry you. So if you get married, let me know. It'd be kind of cool to see that this is the origins of that. Let's see. Hempcar says, why would you dissent in China? You can afford housing, education, and healthcare, and they're not bombing anyone. Maybe Hempcar, you need to understand better what life is like in China. Yes, some can afford healthcare, some can afford housing, some can afford education, and they're not dropping bombs around the world, but they're slaughtering their own people. They're harvesting the organs of their own people. So it's kind of I hate saying it's the lesser of two evils, but I think you need to kind of look a little more at what's really happening in China. There's been a lot of Chinese propaganda saying that, oh, look how great China is. I can tell you, because I've been heavily involved in a lot of research on this, is that China to this day is still actively arresting, murdering, harvesting the organs of dissidents, whether you're, again, house Christians, Uyghur Muslims, people that just kind of question the government too much, the Falun Gong, etc. So, China seems like, they're doing a good job of saying, hey, look how great China is. But yeah, that's not it. But actually, so one thing that I am doing, and I know you've been following this, is that we're building the ARC community as one of the antidotes to this, and we're specifically building it as this platform where we're trying to create this kind of insulation against this, right? So you can't be canceled. There's no data, there's no algorithms. But I actually have something very special to show you today. So I have a little video that we made, kind of describing the story that's kind of led us to building the ARC. And the ARC is, I know I say this every week, that it's almost done, because it really, really is. Like I can't wait to show it to you. We've been working nonstop. However, just to kind of remind you that we are doing something, I'm going to show you this video. And so this right here, this is it's like a 3-minute video, which is kind of talking about the origin story of the ARC and what's kind of made us to, kind of spur us into building the ARC. So I will play this for you. Let me open it up real quick here. And yes, here we go. Let's see. Let me kind of crop it real quick. Okay, so here it's about under 3 minutes long. So this is the kind of this is the story of the ARC and why we're building it. So I'll play this for you, and just want to remind you that with the ARC community, if you want to get onto the wait list for it, it's buildthearc.com. Like right around 15,000 people on the wait list for this. I can't wait for it to launch. So anyway, if you want to get on the wait list for it, it's buildthearc.com. So I'll show this video to you real quickly now, about 3 minutes long. I think you're gonna like this. Do you remember the early days of 2020 when something deep down inside of you said the world is changing in a very fundamental way? You see, I was living in a high-rise in New York City at that time, and my wife Kate and I just found out we were pregnant with our first child. So we sold up everything, we left Manhattan, and went back to Ohio, where I grew up. Because we both had this sense that the world was not going to be the same anymore, and we needed to live in a way that we were prepared for whatever's going to happen. So we bought 5 acres out in the middle of nowhere. We had 50 chickens, huge gardens, stockpiled food, ammo, medicine, everything that we thought we would need. But inside, we felt empty. We tried getting others involved, friends, family, neighbors, told them, look, if you help out, you can reap the bounty with us. But they just didn't get it. And so somehow our lives went from being built around freedom and independence to just isolation. Every day was about supplies and defenses and prepping, and we were so busy and focused, and yet we had never felt so alone. Because when you're living in fear, even if you're surrounded by everything that you think you need, you're missing the one thing that matters the most: people. And so we made a change. We left Ohio and moved to upstate New York, where my wife and I had both spent a lot of our adult lives. Now, look, it's a political nightmare here, but you know what we found? Community. Neighbors who show up when you need help. Friends who plant beside you, pray beside you, and break bread with you. And that's when it hit me. The single most important part of preparedness isn't food, it isn't bullets, it isn't land, it's people. And that's why we're building the ARC community. It's a place to build real relationships, a place to connect with others who see what's happening in this world, who see the darkness rising in this world, just like in the days of Noah, and know that you're not supposed to face it alone. A place to share knowledge, faith, and encouragement. A place to meet people that live near you and build real-world offline relationships. Because you can have all the gear in the world, but without people, you're still on an island. ARC community is about ending that loneliness. It's about finding your people. So don't keep preparing alone. Join us inside the ARC community. If you recognize that shirt in there. But anyway, so yeah, that's a lot of the origin story behind what led us to building the ARC community. Is that we realized that, because like I said in the video, we went back to Ohio. This is kind of early pandemic. We went crazy with prepping, and I kind of have a tendency to do that. I get really focused on something, and I sometimes take it to the extreme. And this is like, okay, hey, this is the pandemic, and craziness is happening. There were fuel shortages and food shortages that were going to be happening from the war in Ukraine. And so we just, Kate and I, we just went nonstop, built huge gardens. We had 50 some chickens. We had just stockpiling, but we couldn't find anyone who wanted to take part in it with us. We tried talking to our neighbors, tried talking to our friends and say, hey, look, we want to build a safe haven for you. So if things really hit the fan, we want to have the gardens and the infrastructure to help you. And people just were kind of like, okay, that's kind of cool. And, I'll come by and pick some of your tomatoes. But we couldn't find people and we just were really alone. And so we moved back to upstate New York, where we both spent, like I said, a lot of our adult lives. And we have just this beautiful community now. And our life has gone from being really alone and kind of fearful towards the world to just being just abundant, because we have just this huge network of friends. And it was this lesson for us that, you think about prepping and preparing, and you think about gathering supplies and, learning things and building out a library of printed books that an EMP is not going to take out, and getting solar and off grid. But the most important thing about that is actually building a community of people. And so that's why we're building the Ark. I mean, literally, we're building this Ark to help people to build those relationships. So you can use the platform to find people that are close to you. You can find people, forming local chapters. You can, search based upon expertise. So say you have a question about solar, you can put a question in the solar group on there and say, hey, I need help with this. You can tag solar as the topic. And for somebody that has solar as one of their areas of expertise, they'll get a little notification saying, hey, someone's asking about solar. Can you go help them with their question? So the idea is that we're doing everything that we can to help use the technology that we have to build these relationships that then form these offline relationships. And so anyway, that's it. That's what we're working on. It's coming out very, very, very soon, I promise. If you want to get on the wait list for that, you just go to buildtheark.com, drop in your name and your email. We've already got, as I said, close to 15,000 people waiting. We're going to be doing it in kind of tranches. So we're not going to say open it to everyone all at once. Because it's going to be break the system, but we're gonna have different groups kind of getting in. So we still have some slots in the kind of group number 1, and we kind of slowly adding people in there to kind of get it going. But the idea is that we're gonna build this thriving community, and the platform itself is absolutely amazing. It's it's kind of like a Facebook that has groups and everything, but it just has so much more. It's got courses. There's a whole Ark Academy on there with training courses on, water filtration, emergency medicine, all this. There's survival guides on there for every disaster you could think of. We have survival guides. We're going to have guest Q&A answers. So maybe we bring experts or doctors in there to do live question and answers with the people that are on the platform. So anyway, I'm really, really excited about that. And that's just one of the things that we're trying to do to build resilience. But also, we own the platform. It's got, we're now up to over 500,000 lines of code. Like, it's a very, very complex platform, but we own every single character of code. It's going to be hosted on private servers, and we're even setting it up as a private membership association. So that's a whole different kind of topic, but basically it's like constitutionally it's protecting our privacy. And there's actually Supreme Court cases that establish precedents that there's been times when some people, the state government has tried to come in and demand a member list of a PMA. But actually the Supreme Court has stepped in and said, look, this is constitutionally, you have the right to assemble, you have the right to that privacy, and they have blocked even a state government from getting access to a member list. And so we're doing it to set up a truly private and just insulated, safe place. There's no algorithms aside from just your normal fee, but there's no algorithms to kind of change the behavior of things. There's no advertising. We're not collecting and selling your data. So anyway, if you want to learn more about that and join the waiting list, is buildtheark.com. Okay, so let's go ahead and hop over to the just the chat. I've kind of gone through I think a lot of what I wanted to cover today. So if you have any questions, just let me know. I'm going to open up a different window real quick. Let me see, because I didn't do this beforehand. Give me 1 second to just open up a different window with my show notes. Give me 1 quick second here. And so we can have a little bit of chatting and get a little back and forth fun. Okay, so go back to the chat. So I've got the YouTube chat. So here's the Rumble chat, and we also have the YouTube chat. So if you have any questions or comments, I've got my producer Kay who's running the chat. Hello, Kay. And Kay was also, she helped out with that video. She's a brilliant filmmaker as well. But just let me know and let me see, because she's been collecting some of the comments as well during the show. So yes, an earlier question. This is from YouTube from there. So this is from let's see, Trauma T. Dr. Louis Gastro PhD. Sorry if I mess up your name. Saying some say that the flock cameras are a distraction and a test because they've placed tiny cameras which are hard to decipher. What do you think? I agree with that. Yeah, I agree. But as I talked about, there's flock, I think, is also, it's not the end all, right? So there's other things. And the thing is that as we saw with that, the signal, sorry, what's it called again? Signal trace. They don't even need cameras to track you. That's the scary thing. Leslie Chateau on Rumble, who said, is it true LA just canceled their flock contract? So it was, as far as I understand, it was just the LAPD that canceled their flock contract. It doesn't mean the flock cameras are being taken out of LA. It's just that the LAPD canceled their flock contract. So there you go. Another question from, let's see. This is from Hemp Car and Rumble. How many cameras does Amazon have with their Netrodyne cams and all their vans every day? That's a good point too, right? Is it the Amazon van cams? Not even talking about the ring system. Is their vans, which have cameras everywhere. So, that's why, for our property, I put a big gate up. That's, you could somebody see kind of, our house is pretty far back from the road, but there's a big gate, and the gate's got these big signs. It says like no trespassing. It also says, property under constant surveillance. I got these big signs on my gate. So people who kind of drive by think that, okay, this guy's kind of a nut, but hey, I'm happy about that. Atlas BE on Rumble said Cleveland ended their contract, yet the cameras still ran. Yep, that's happening all the time. Leap Doll on Rumble says, Seth, do you think the data centers are going to drain our aquifers, causing home infrastructure failure as well as making our property unsaleable? I think so too, yes. And yes, I think that that's absolutely happening. Not only going to see issues with wells drying up, but also when you drain those aquifers, that's when you get sinkholes. And so you're seeing in areas like that where the aquifers are being drained, that you have sinkholes coming. So yeah, I mean, it's bad news. Absolutely. Yeah, McBuster, I thought we didn't like the CCP. How come they are implementing Skynet here? Yeah, that's the question. You're right. And I think that Tucker handled that quite well in saying that, what are we competing with the CCP on the same digital surveillance grid? Is that what the excuse is here? Let's go take a look back at some of the overall, some of the live questions. So yeah, Maya Cashmere 3000. Wow, you moved from the beautiful 5 acres in Ohio. Yeah. So we left Ohio. Now the property you saw me on in the video, because we just filmed that last fall, that's our property. So when you saw me out there with the chickens, and actually I'll show you, let me see real quick if I can scrub through that and show you. Yeah, so this right here, this is our current property. That's our, so this is our woodshed that we built. Let's see, this is my, actually, let me pause it real quick. Oops. Yep. So this is, that's our chicken coop right there. So that's collecting eggs. It's one big building. It's kind of combined with our woodshed. That's my tractor in the background there. Yeah. So that's our current property that you see me talking in front of there. Yeah, so you can see it kind of behind me. But yeah, so that's currently where we are. And yes, we left. You can see that's it right there. But anyway, yeah, we left Ohio, and we had a nice place in Ohio. I like where we're at now. Better on 7 acres. We're surrounded by woods, backing up to even more woods. And again, we're in New York, but we're in a very rural, very conservative area. So, I don't love it for that reason. However, we've got an amazing community here. So, yes. Yeah. Menopause, who says Vance is a technocrat. Don't trust him at all. Yeah. I mean, the thing is that Vance is teal, right? So Vance is the vice president because of Peter Thiel. So if you trust Peter Thiel, you can trust George Vance. So if you don't, then yes. So Atlas BE says, if Seth could live anywhere, where? If I could live anywhere, honestly, I would live right where I am right now, just because of the people that are around us. Like, and that's just the reality of it. We have, that's the thing. That's what I've learned, is that the most important thing is the people. I would rather live where I'm at right now than have some 1,000-acre ranch out in the middle of nowhere in Utah, but be all alone. That's just the reality of it. So I would say I'd want to live here. That's where I'd want to be. I'll be covering the wildfire smoke later this week. Just I see a few questions about that. I see people talking about beekeeping. Let's see. Yeah, I think that we're going to be doing beekeeping. Yeah, I see that, D for the Almighty says beekeeping is my next mission. And yeah, I think that's the idea. I think that we're going to be doing beekeeping. Maybe next year we'll get into beekeeping. Rumblemania, 50 chickens. Wow, I have 8. So we had 50 chickens back in Ohio. When we moved, we gave away that flock, but now we're probably up to about 30 chickens or so. But 10 of them they're young. We only hatched them a few months ago. So right now we have about probably 15 to 20 regular hens. The rest are kind of little ones. And we have a rooster, which is great. Lily Creek says, I can help with your website, Seth. I've been a web developer and software programmer and web host for 30 years. Thank you, Lily. Actually, we're at the very, very end. But Lily, maybe once we launch, because we will need to build a team around the ARC. We're going to have to build a team that is just kind of supporting it, because right now my wife has been, my wife, Kate, is also, one of her backgrounds is web developer and software and everything. But Lily, if you could send an email to Kay, I know it's good. So Lily, if you could email Kay, it's booking@maninamerica.com, and also CC Seth@maninamerica.com. I'd love just to have your contact and just have you, because once we get going, we're going to need people to help us maintain as we grow the ARC. And so again, Lily Creek, just if you could send an email to booking@maninamerica.com and CC Seth@maninamerica.com. And also, Kay, if you want to just take note of that. Thank you, Lily. I appreciate that. Mighty Mouse, thank you. Seth, you have a nice place. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, there you go. D for the Almighty. Oh my gosh, Seth. Your video has described what I've been through, that isolation from being the only one wanting to honor God and prepare. Yeah. And Lily Creek, yeah, there you go. I've been feeling just like that for 15 years now. And that's the thing. I've felt the exact same way. Like we've lived that. But that's the idea, is that like I've met people, even people I didn't know, but we're actually building a community, especially through our homeschooling and everything. And it's the greatest feeling. Like I met a guy recently that was former special forces in Norway, right? We went to a shooting range together, and it was absolutely amazing. It was amazing. And also at the same kind of shooting day, which one of my buddies organized, I met a guy that was a combat medic who did like 3 tours in Afghanistan. And this guy's like local to me, and now he's a friend. And so it's just amazing once you start building your own local community. It's absolutely incredible. Okay, keep going down. Yes. Oh, thank you. There you go. So Kay dropped in that email right there. So for Lily Creek, if you want to send us an email. Yep. Thank you, Kay. Yep. Yeah. So our chickens are free range. We let them out. We let them out. They're out most of the day. We've got 2 dogs. So thankfully we've got 2 labs that I've trained to not kill the chickens. They killed them a couple of times, but now they don't anymore. But the good thing is that the dogs, they roam the property. They're outside dogs. They're work dogs. And, all night I'll hear them barking because they're barking at deer. They're barking at coyote. So we haven't had any of our chickens killed by predators, which is great. And so we have so we've got a really good kind of setup here. and which is it's great. No dolphins yet though. Hemp car. We don't have any pet dolphins. Maybe eventually we'll get there. I'm not sure. Let's go check over at YouTube and see what's happening at YouTube. Hello, YouTube people. Oh, thank you. So Paul Mickle says, Men in America, I've become immersed in your content. You're one of the best interviewers around. I appreciate that. Thank you. Honestly, I really appreciate that. It's a very, very kind comment. He also says, hands down, one of the most relevant channels on YouTube. Thank you. I really try to be. I mean, look, I don't always cover what's trending. I don't really do things for clicks. I try to cover what I think is important. And that's what guides a lot of the content that for me is I'm trying to just talk about the things that are important. And so, yeah. Thank you. Let's see. So Paul says also, the more people that start running an app that broadcasts junk data, the more effective. That's a good point. Actually, if you can, it's kind of like a signal jammer, right? If you can run an app that is just broadcasting tons of junk to confuse these things, that's a good idea. Logan Lake Community News says, thank you, Seth, for all you've shared with us over the years. Deeply appreciate you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you as well for that comment. And that's just what I try to do. I could do a better job of being more kind of personal. I'm actually a very private person, as much as I'm sitting in front of a camera like this. I'm actually very private, and that's also one of the reasons why I'm looking forward to the ARC, is because I want to share a lot more of my life, but I don't want to share it with everybody. I've been attacked a lot from different media companies and different things, and I've had hit pieces on me, and so I'm looking forward to having just my own little community where I can upload videos of the projects we're doing, our gardens, what I'm doing with the kids, homeschooling. Like I really want to be able to share that with you. But for a little while, Telegram was that, but Telegram is like half bots on there. There's like porn bots all over Telegram, and you can't get rid of that. And so we're not going to have that on the ARC. So yeah. And Feminine Poet says, Seth, that's a really important lesson about people. So true. Just realized that because I went from the mountains to more culturally diverse communities, and it's quite refreshing. Yeah. That's it's so important. That's the thing, and that's just what I'm realizing in life. I wish that I would have married Kate earlier, and we could have started having kids in our 20s. I'd probably have 10 kids, right? But Kate's in her 40s, and maybe we'll have one more child. But I'd love to have like 10 kids, and I would just, if I had 10 kids, I would slowly buy up all the land around me and build 10 houses. And I love the idea of building a small community. I think it's the inverse of what they've tried to push us to do over the last 60 or 70 years. Is I want to go back to that, to just building small local community and just supporting each other. It's really, really good. Okay, so Jim McCrown, good night. Got to sleep. Good night, all. Thank you. Yeah. In the book documentary, okay, just the different things you're talking about there. Talk about South Park. Yeah. Tomahawk says, I've always felt like a man born in a T-Rex body. I've never felt that, but that's probably a good feeling to have. Yes. Being a man born in a T-Rex body. Okay. Well, I think that we're going to wrap up. We're coming up on, getting close to the 2-hour mark, and I've got a busy day ahead of me, and it's been a long day today. Actually, we went berry picking today. It was really wonderful. So I guess the beauty of living in the country. We went on a bike ride this morning. My mom is in town right now with us, which she just loves coming here. She's kind of drives from Ohio to spend 3 or 4 nights with us and spend time with the girls. And we went on a bike ride because I have this bike carrier attached to the back of my bicycle, and we go on these long, 2-hour long bike rides all across the country. It's beautiful because we live in a very pretty area, and we're out riding, and we notice that there's all these raspberry, all on the road. There's raspberry bushes that are ripe. And so we actually then we picked some. We came back later in my car, and we picked this big bag of just beautiful, fresh ditch raspberries and blackberries. And we came home, and I did a rotisserie chicken on the grill tonight. And then for dessert, we took nice vanilla ice cream and just covered it in these freshly picked organic, this ditch growing raspberries. And it was just wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. So yeah. Cool. Rumblemania, you've got a chicken tractor. Yeah, that's a good thing for you. Yeah, chicken tractors are really good. Start looking at those comments. So yeah, do you feel my Seth? So thankful you're answering God's call, following him and leading others in his way. That's it, right? I like that we got to kind of band together right now. The flood is coming. It's already raining. It's already raining. And Noah didn't wait till it was raining to build his ark. That's an important point there. So anyway, I'm going to finish for you. I'm going to say goodbye shortly here, but I've got a little video to kind of conclude with. It's a little piano video I want to play for you. But just a reminder to hit the like button, leave a comment, share the content with someone. I hope that I put together a good presentation of this information so you can share it with friends and family, regardless of what their political beliefs are, just to educate them on the surveillance infrastructure being built in this country. And also reminder to sign up for the ARC community. So if you want to join the waiting list, if you're interested in that, want to learn more about it, go to buildtheark.com. So buildtheark.com. And enter in your name and your email on there, and we'll add you to that list. And so in closing, I told you I had a little special video. So I discovered this pianist, this young guy from Mexico. I forget his, let's see what his name. His name is, let me pull it up for you. It's Hebron Alukar, if I pronounce it correctly. Anyway, I've found it to be absolutely just beautiful. And for whatever reason, he has this song. It's only 2 minutes long or 3 minutes long. I've just been listening to this song over and over and over. I feel like it kind of captures where I'm at mentally right now. So I just want to share that with you. This is a song that really stirs my heart. And so I'm going to leave you with this. I'll play the song for you, and then we'll say our goodbyes. And I'll see you next time. So we'll end on this song. So again, thank you. I love you all. I'll see you next Sunday with some great content coming out. And again, I'm just going to play a song for you in closing, and I hope that you enjoy it, because for some reason, I've just fallen in love with this song. I'm playing it. I've listened to it probably 30 hours in the past 2 weeks. So here we go.